What's going on? I am Kelli Kelz. I am the Ugly Brand. Welcome to the.Ugly Truth Podcast, where I speak with some amazing people that have done some amazing things. But as you know, everything that glitters is not always so gold. There's always a little bit of ugly before the beauty. So today, I have an amazing guest. One of my, I would say he's a friend of mine, Jonathan Jones. He
Mhm.
is your podcast mentor, believe it or not. So here I am doing this like podcast, and it's all ugly and everything because I'm allowed because it's the Ugly Brand. But he's a podcast mentor, so I'm probably going to try to do things as perfect as possible because I'm probably going to get a lesson after this, and I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. The.Ugly Truth Podcast is sponsored by none other than The Ugly Brand. Go ahead and get your ugly gear at www.theuglybrand.com. That's www.theuglybrand.com. Mr. Jones, how art thou?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm well. I wish that my Do It Ugly shirt wasn't dirty right now because I've been wearing it, but I wish it wasn't because I would have wore it for the podcast.
Oh
But I'm
man, that's
good.
cool. That just
I'm
means that
good.
we have to record again. That's all.
That's
We,
fair. We
we
can do
might
it
have another.
again. That's
We're gonna
good.
have another episode.
That's good. I'm here for it.
That's it. I love it, man. All right, man. So look, man, the dot ugly truth, man. I'm always here to hear other people's ugly truths. Of course, I have my own, and I always typically expose mine. But so I'm gonna go back a little bit. What? How did you even get into podcasting, or what was it that led you into podcasting?
So ultimately, it was me speaking first. So going to different schools and stuff like that. And when I first started out, I was just trying to get some reps in. So going anywhere and everywhere I could to speak.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, well, all the times at first it was free, and then luckily one time I went and spoke to some young men who were in the juvenile detention center, and then I got paid $25
Hmm.
based on me volunteering. They're like, hey, here's this. And the first time I got that check, I was like, wow. Just to know that somebody thought enough of me to be willing to give me something for my voice.
Hmm.
And then I'll fast forward a little bit. And then I wanted to expand the brand. And
Hmm.
then that was when I got to the point to where my videographer at the time, his name is Reginald Titus. He said, John, you should start a podcast.
Hmm.
And I was like, Reginald, I'm not going to start a podcast. You should start a podcast. I don't
Right.
want to start no podcast, man. But then after going back and forth with him and then just talking about it a little bit more, then I said, you know what? I want to go ahead and do it. But that was what 5 years ago at this point.
Hmm.
So we've been rolling since then.
Wow. Wow. So wait, do you have a podcast with him, or it's just you?
So it's just me, but he has his own
Right.
podcast to
Right.
where he talks about breaking down film and stuff like that because he's a executive producer and he does films and things like
Hmm.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Sounds like a good time. Sounds like a good time. So okay, so you say you started off with speaking first. So what got you into speaking? Did you go to school for that, or what got you there first?
So just looking at like my family, like my dad was a preacher.
Hmm.
My dad is a preacher, if you will.
Hmm.
My granddad was a preacher of sorts, but I really felt I got exposed to speaking when I was in junior college,
Hmm.
and I took a public speaking class. And
Mm.
I still remember to the day, Dr. Artis Thornton. He was a guy who had like the charisma of like a Sinbad because he had a loop earring and he would just be all over the place and everything. And he would just encourage us and help us to understand just the power of speaking.
Hmm.
So that was when I really got bit when I was forced to go up in front of the class and then speak and then try these different things.
Hmm.
And then after I graduated, that was when it was like, okay, what do I do? Like what happens now? I got my degree in psychology and I'm just trying to figure out like what do I do with a bachelor's degree in psychology?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then and then the way things started just rolling was I was getting jobs and getting opportunities to where somebody had to speak. And then my CEO at the nonprofit at the time
Hmm.
would always push me out there. He was like, John, I don't really want to do this. You go ahead and take that. John, you know what? I'm not going to show up. You can go ahead and replace me, but don't tell them that until you get there.
Hmm.
So that was when I really just started to get my feet wet and really started getting some exposure just in terms of speaking and communicating with people at that level.
Right. Wow, man. So do you still speak on stages and things like that now?
Oh, most definitely. Well, due to due to COVID and
Right.
everything like that, a lot of it has been virtually. A lot of it has been Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting ready to go to a speaking engagement coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm going to Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I love the opportunity to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like the opportunity to connect with the students or the
Right.
entrepreneurs after the engagement, after the opportunity, and then
Right.
just talk one on one, hear their stories, hear their challenges, and just connect with them in that way.
Right. Okay. I love that because, as you know, I'm getting into that space. I never really felt
Mhm.
like I never really felt like people listen to me, and I'm not saying that in a way that I'm in a bratty way, right? Like nobody ever listens to me.
Mhm.
I'm saying that in a way that I didn't know there was a force behind my voice. I'm just now
Mhm.
realizing it. I'm just now realizing it. I don't ever have a problem speaking. I don't ever have a problem speaking in front of people. But I didn't know there was something that could be so one that could be monetized, and two, the fulfillment that you get out of it in
Mhm.
speaking with um or to people. I just never knew it was a thing. You know what I mean? And so now, having joined the morning meetup and meeting people like yourself, and hearing about ET, and um, actually being in a room with Eric Thompson, hearing him speak, I'm like, yo, you feel something. So to be able to have a voice like that and make people feel something is dope. It's dope.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, one thing that I just encourage you in
Mhm.
is really a lot of times, depending on who the individual is, right? Depending on who the individual is, but a lot of times we may feel that one, I don't know what I would offer to the
Right,
world.
right.
Then the other part is, well, what do I talk about? And
Hmm.
the craziest thing is, you literally just have to share what you know. Because
Right.
I was reading some of your story in a post the other day. Because you put some of the funniest reels up ever. I'm like, where does she find these videos? But but when I read the caption, and I started hearing you talk about. I'm not sure if you said you had what was it, just in terms of your learning, like it was the fact that.
Oh, yeah, I was on Hooked on Phonics.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was
Kelly,
I was
that's
hooked on phonics when I was a kid. I had the little
yes.
yellow box.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And just understanding that, I know a few years ago the stat was the majority of Americans don't have past a third or fifth grade reading level.
Mhm.
So believe it or not, that makes you more relatable than the majority of speakers probably speaking now.
Mm.
Just off the strength of that. And so often we want to be like, and this was me, I wanted to be like ET, I wanted to be
Right.
like Inky Johnson, I
Right.
watched Tony Robbins and all of these people, and
Mhm.
then I realized that I'm not a motivational speaker.
Mhm.
One thing that I do really really well is I tell stories really well.
Mm.
I
Mm.
paint the picture really well,
Right.
really vivid.
Right.
So it's just, it's just finding that lane, finding your piece, and then
Right.
just telling your truth.
Yeah. I definitely have no because I've said something before, and I think it was one time I was on a morning meetup when I kind of got a little busy, and someone said to me, I think they sent my DM or something like that. I was like, you sound like a female ET, and I'm like, yeah, I appreciate it, but at the same time, I'm not trying to be like ET. He's Eric Thomas. He's going to be Eric Thomas. There's not going to be another Eric Thomas. Period. You ask me.
Mhm.
It's kind of like Michael Jordan. You ask me. There's not going to be another Michael Jordan. You can always say
Mhm.
LeBron is great and everything other, but there's so many different factors, right, that go into all that stuff.
Mhm.
But definitely finding my lane in just where I touch those pain points and I move them. That's where I want to go. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm figuring out, okay, what is that going to look like, and what does that feel like, and um, I'm never someone who plans what I'm going to say. I can tell you where I'm planning to go, but
Mhm.
alongside of that, there's going to be some stuff that comes with that, some stories, and so that's what I'm learning too from yourself. And Jose is an amazing storyteller. And
Mhm.
I believe that when you paint a picture and you paint a picture for people, because a lot of times people are visual learners. I'm a visual learner. So when you paint a picture for someone, it gives them the ability to be able to now just feel, and not only just feel but see where they can go because they can see where somebody else just went. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's where it's if you want to be real, some of the most successful people, one thing that they've done really well is they painted the vision.
right.
Oprah did a great job painting the vision. She had the network. And
Mhm.
then you go down the line, your boy Steve Jobs. And the
Mhm.
craziest thing was Steve Jobs, he wasn't the one who was gifted with the computers. He
Mhm.
had the other Steve. I believe his name was like Steve Wozniak or something like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
He was the one who did the technical stuff. He was with the vision. He was
Right.
like, this is what the iPhone is going to do. This is where it's going.
Right.
And he just did a great job of telling the story and painting the
Right.
picture of the vision.
Wow.
So we just got to paint the vision, and then that's when you challenge people to say, well, I motivated you. I gave you some inspiration.
Mhm.
Now, are you going to do what you already know you need to do to be successful? That's the real question.
Right. Yeah. That's one thing that I'm learning now as I study fear and study um, limiting beliefs, where fear comes from, and
Mm,
how it affects you, physically, emotionally, and things like that. There's a lot of layers to it. I'm learning that, and it's like, yo, if people knew how detrimental fear was to just them as a human, I
mm,
think that it would be people would move a little different and not be so fearful to dream or to work towards their dreams or start actually putting forth action towards their dreams. And just so what I'm learning is it's so much deeper than just, hey, I'm afraid to do that, or I don't know what this is gonna look like. Like, no, this stuff affects your blood pressure. People don't know that. It stuff affects
mm.
your heart rate. People don't know that. So many different levels to it. So
That's
I'm
heavy.
so all right. Next thing. Okay, so dad is a preacher. Granddad is a preacher. You a
Mhm.
preacher?
No, I wouldn't say I'm a preacher. I'm a believer in the Holy Trinity and
Yes.
Jesus Christ, but I wouldn't categorize myself as a preacher.
Hmm.
But I do know that I put myself in the position of being a servant.
There you go.
And I say that because I really want people to be successful, Kelly. I want people to be successful. I want people to win, man.
Hmm.
And and if I haven't showed it anywhere else, I'm now showing it on my YouTube channel
Hmm.
because I'm doing how-tos for everything podcast related.
Hmm.
And if people don't want to win through the podcasting lane,
Hmm.
then they're not going to do what I do in the videos. And I'm walking through the stuff in the videos, like literally, it's almost ridiculous. But anyway, I would just call myself a servant, just
Yeah.
because I want to serve.
So I need to check your podcast out. Um, your YouTube channel. I mean, check the podcast out. YouTube channel. Um, I love that you say that. That's something that Alistair always preaches is about
Hmm.
serving. And in order to reap first, you have to sow something. And I think that a lot
Hmm.
of times people feel like they've sown something, but then that was it. They didn't water it. You know what I mean? Well, I helped you out that one
Hmm.
time. What about second, third, fourth, and fifth? Did you help someone out? Or these, and so the mindset of a servant, the servants always, in my opinion, and then also from what I know from just, my biblical upbringing, servants always win. You know, it might not be immediate and it might not be a super quick turnaround, but there's a turnaround for
Yeah.
servants. And I think that there's some of the most successful people. There's something that, ultimately, I guess business in and of itself is always, hey, you need to be solving someone's problem. But there's
Hmm.
another level when you're willing to solve someone else's problem when you're in a serving spirit or a serving space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And then one thing just to piggyback off that example,
Mm-hmm.
like I know you've been to some nice restaurants. 'Cause I know you're a big spender over there. Just think about the fact of this. Like the server has a direct entrance into the private rooms.
Mm-hmm.
The server is communicating directly with the person, the celebrity, whoever it is at the table.
Oh, that's all.
The servant is the one who is providing. It's like, okay, what are you looking for tonight? Oh, you in the mood for fish? You in the mood for steak? You in the mood for a vegan option? Okay, and then the server takes in what the individual said, and then they recommend based on the information they were given. And then when they come out and then they do what they're supposed to do, more likely than not, they should have a nice tip. And then one thing that really shows that a servant did their due diligence, then the person who came to the restaurant and they were pleased, then they refer other people back. And then when they come back, they'll ask specifically for that person. And I think so often in business, we're too busy just trying to focus on how can I sit at the table? I want to sit at the table. Let me in the room. I want to sit at the table. Focus on being the one to provide the meal. Focus on just doing what needs to be done so that everybody around the table is happy. And then when you do that, you always have a place at the table. But you have to serve first. You have to put others before yourself. And ultimately, that is the way you are elevated. But nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do the hard work and the hard work first. We just want to get the check. Just pay me first. Pay me. I don't want to do I don't want to do it ugly. Kelly, I don't want to go out and, deliver phone books door to door.
1 second. Bruh. If ugly is as ugly does, yo.
What's up, bro? How you doing?
What's up?
Are you in the garage?
No, I have a studio here down in the basement. And
oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I converted one of my rooms into a studio, but
Nice.
it's on the entry level of my home, and the garage. So when you in order to come in from the garage, that's how I come in, and it's right by the studio. Normally people don't just be waltzing in and out of here, but my brother just had to walk in and drop my car key off, so he didn't know I was recording. We're gonna get back to it. Keep the party going. Where were we? Back to the server. People don't want, but that is one thing that I realized in business, and I think that social media plays such a huge part in this. People show the gold, they show the golden days. They show the Rolls Royces and the Bentleys and the Louis this and, all the other stuff, because I don't, all I wear is Nike. I don't really know any of this other stuff. But, all the stuff, the glitters, you know what I mean? But we don't see the ugly part of it. You don't see the hard work that goes in the background. And so when you say, okay, I want those things, I want to do those things, you know what I mean? That comes like for myself, I wanted to start a podcast. Yeah, okay, I'm going to start a podcast. Okay, Kelly, now you got to go with equipment. Okay, what's that? What comes with that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, now how I set this up? Oh, okay. So I went from having one camera to there's 2 cameras in here to now you have to learn about lighting. Now you have to learn about audio. And here's the thing. I don't even edit my podcasts. My podcasts are edited by my engineer, Big Moves. So I'm blessed because he takes care of what I would think the real hard part is. But all in all, all I know is that my mentor said, everybody should have a podcast. I'm like, okay, cool. I can have one of those. I can do that. And then there's that nitty gritty. And it's like, oh yeah, you can do that. However, this is what comes with that. And I think that sometimes, often, because we are so, the golden days are so displayed that that ugly truth of part of this of putting things together is what we don't see. And so that's what you're saying, where before you become a chef, you have to, take the classes. You got to learn how to cut. You got to learn the cuts of the meats. You got to learn just the right temperature so that the salmon is not too dry or that it's not too wet. Or there's so many things that come with that. You don't just become the chef. And a lot of us want to just become the chef, and we've never even played a sous chef. And but we just want to cook something up, you know, and you haven't even read, you don't even know what spices go in the recipe,
Uh,
you know. So I think that's that ugly truth where we just don't. Well, I can't say we because I get it, but you know, there's that time and that place where you want these things, but these things just don't come overnight. There's so many pieces of the recipe in order to make the meal, and it's not just, you know, then you got the, you know, it's there's levels to that. You know what I'm saying? Are you cooking appetizers? Are you making a full course? Are you able to do a
mhm.
full course meal? Can you do the 7 course or the 5 course or the 3 course? Like, it's just so much that goes into that we don't um, pay attention to.
That's
And
so true.
I think that, you know, that's why I love my brand, the Ugly Truth, and just the Ugly brand, because everything is ugly. You know what I'm saying? At some point, when you think about it, like a child coming out of the birth canal is ugly. If you ask me, I've never had one. I don't, but I watched a couple of shows, YouTube,
Uh-huh.
and it's messy. It's a messy thing. It's messy. It's great. It's a thing of beauty, but it's ugly. So, like I said, the numbers that we've been told, or that I've been told, was, if not, I think it's 85% of millionaires are first generation. So it's going to be,
Mhm.
but so many people are going to get, you know, this stuff handed down to them, you know. And even now, there's one thing that Shaq says I love. He says he'll tell his children, "I'm rich, y'all not rich." You know,
Yeah.
it's a level of work that got to be put in first before you just think that you rich. And so I love to hear people always say, you know, generational wealth. You know, I'm trying to do this so that my kids don't have to. Now, wait a minute now. There's gonna be levels to this. You know what I mean? You're not gonna just get this stuff because I didn't just get it. It's levels to this.
That's
But I
real.
think that we all have to realize in entrepreneurship, for sure, that there are levels. There are levels, and sometimes a lot of
Mhm.
people don't make it because they don't want to. They don't want to taste the spices of the recipe yet. They just want to eat a full
Mm.
course meal. So
That's it.
yeah,
That's it.
it's. I've learned so much in the last year just about entrepreneurship. And the crazy thing is, I have a master's in business administration. I know nothing about entrepreneurship from that. I mean, I really would love a refund for my master's. Um, I mean, it can't be taken away from me. It sounds good and everything, but from I've learned more in a year of just investing in business and myself and people around me than I would have ever learned sitting in a university.
Yeah, that's part of the direct application because I've had this conversation with my dad, with my mom, with my wife, and it's like because I didn't even finish my master's, but I still got the debt, but I didn't finish,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, I can't believe how much money I paid
Mm, mm,
and not walk away with anything that's really tangible or applicable in terms of strategies versus what I've learned since investing $30,000, $40,000 in my business to where I've been able to return on my investment.
mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things
Mm-hmm.
to where you have to ask yourself, what is the educational system really meant for? If we say it's not just meant for teaching you how to have a job,
Mm-hmm.
what is it? What's really the purpose other than putting people in debt?
Yeah.
Because some of it just don't add up because
Yeah.
I've bought courses and I've flipped what I learned in the course and then generated my money back.
Right. Right. I
It's a whole other
it's a
story.
frustrating thing, to be 1,000% honest. And I know a lot of times people, we joke about it, and you know, I laugh about it now because it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. I got the darn piece of paper. It is what
Uh-huh.
it is. And it was a sense of accomplishment. It was something that I completed. But I think that was the best feeling that I got from getting my master's, which was simply just a feeling of completion.
Hmm.
But I don't have a feeling. I guess I can't say I don't have a feeling of accomplishment because I did accomplish something. But the biggest thing that I've been able to do with my master's is simply say, I have a master's. And that's because of my profession, my 9 to 5. I work for the federal government. So whether I have a master's or not, I mean, it just looks good on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something that if I walk into the door, oh, that'll get you an extra 10,000. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but our culture, that's what we knew, right? And that's what my
True.
parents knew was, hey, you got to go to college. And that's what was instilled in me. And so now, things are just it's a huge shift. I mean, if you want to be a doctor, well, then yeah, you got to go to college. There's a whole different level of study you have to do for that.
Uh-huh.
You want to
Mm-hmm.
be a lawyer, you got to go to law school. It's a whole different level of studying for that. You want to be an entrepreneur? Hey, don't go to college. That's what I would say. Just get around some people and invest that way. $5,000 a semester for me to go to Bowie State University back when I went. $5,000 is also what I paid to get into recession proof. And out of recession proof, that led me to the morning meetup, which led me to the Ugly brand, which has now led me to so many different things. $5,000. Not even a portion of that. That is, I don't even know if you know fractions because I'm not like the quickest math person. Like I'm not. But that is a fraction of the cost for my degrees.
I hear you.
That's it's an ugly truth about systemic education, guys. Also, just my personal opinion, personal thoughts. So don't go out here and watch this and say, Kelly said I don't have to go to college. Please come with some type of logic. This is just my logic.
Logic through experience. Yeah, logic through experience though, but that's good.
Yes, absolutely. So, okay. So speaking now, and where are you trying to take this to now, or are you in a space where, hey, Kel, I'm happy with where I'm at in this space for the time being?
I feel a sense of accomplishment, or let me rephrase. I feel a sense of, yeah, I'll just stick with that. I feel a certain level of accomplishment, but if I looked at goals and I looked at them in a picture form, because I'm a visual learner like you too. It's almost like I'm the mountain climber and I'm like staking every time I get like an accolade or an accomplishment or do another speaking engagement, I'm just putting another stake in the mountain just so I can climb to the next level on the mountain. For me, I'm nowhere near what I desire for my life. I want to write a New York Times bestselling book. I want to have the #1 how-to podcast. I want to teach hundreds of thousands of speakers and coaches and consultants how to start podcasts. And then once I get to that level, then I want to just do even more. I want to have conferences and different things like that and start my own podcast network. So it's just, where I am now, everything that I'm doing now, putting in place now from the podcasting perspective, it's going to help me solidify myself as the authority within the next few years. And then that's going to really help me help more people do what I've done. So start the podcast, speak from the podcast, write the book, and just establish that expert and that authority to be the thought leader in their specific niche.
Yeah. And I think one thing that you left out is you're going to be helping people find their voice.
Yeah, you got it. That sums it up a lot better than I just did.
It's okay. It's all good. Just in whatever way that is, whether it be through a podcast or through a book or speaking engagements, helping people find their voice because we have that freedom now. And, I often hear so much about like complaining or everybody got an opinion about something, but we choose you have the freedom to use your voice in any way that you want. Some have the ability to use their voice and sing, and some people have the ability to use their voice and speak or write or whatever. But I think one thing that helps us grow is hearing other people's voices in whatever format that is. Not everybody has the ability to actually physically hear, but they might have the ability to physically see and read or whatever. So I think that's an amazing thing. I never really had a desire to write a book because I'm like, well, what do I talk about? I mean, I'm pretty sure I have a lot of stuff to talk about because I have a podcast. I mean, I got stuff to talk about, but I wouldn't write a book. But I think that's dope. I think that's dope. So,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so your ugliest truth. What is one of your ugliest truths that you've gotten in your experience from becoming just Jonathan Jones and now to Jonathan Jones Speaks?
One of my ugliest truths, I actually did a TEDx talk and I talked about it, but it's the pain of an untold story.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been fired multiple times from jobs for stealing, and then even at one of those jobs, a young lady I was dating at the time, she got pregnant and then she ended up losing the baby. So going through the midst of all of that, and then even on the brink of like failing out of high school, like this was probably the roughest time in my life to date, because all three of those things happened at the same time. My senior year of high school. And then I got kicked out the house on top of that. So it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with at that time. But looking back at it, I learned a lot about integrity. I learned a lot also to realize that I'm more resilient, and you and everybody else is more resilient than we think. And then even realizing that if you don't share what your struggle is, then it will break you from the inside out. Because I was staying at home at my dad's house, and I'm laying on the couch. He comes in. He was like, "Son, you don't have to go to work today?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm off today." And was just lying. And one morning he woke me up. Kelli, he woke me up one morning, right, real early. He said, "Son, grab that calculator." It was like one of those accountant type calculators where you punch the numbers. He was like, type in this 10,000, 6,000, 20,000, da 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 da. And he said, "How much does it say?" And I was like, da 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 da, whatever the number was. He said, "Son, that's how much it costs to raise a baby." Kelli, here's the kicker. I never told him that I got the girl pregnant.
Your dad, you
Wow.
said as a pastor, right?
Yeah.
One of them deaconess then told. one of the deaconess, you know what? It was probably a trustee. A trustee told. Somebody told me.
It was wild.
Yeah.
I was shocked just to be in that conversation, because me and my dad, we never really talked about sex.
Right.
He just really told us don't do sex. So when he had the conversation, I was like, how do you know that?
Did you ever tell him that was actually your situation?
I did. So now me and him have a really good relationship. We talk just about every day now. Right. And I told him one of these past few years, and he was like, "Wow." And he was just like,
When you grow up with parents in the church, because my parents were in the church, one thing my mom and my dad always would say to me is, "What's done in the dark is going to come to light." It's not going to be immediate. It may not be immediate. Just understand, something is going to lead me or whoever to something of of the light. So when you tell that story, it's kind of like, dang, here you go to these parents again, like being right.
That's the way it always goes, and that's why now I live my life as an open book. I never try to take anything for free. Somebody's like, "Oh no, you can have it." I'm like, "Nah, I can't. actually, I'm gonna pay for this. I
Right.
don't want it. If it no, I don't want it
Right.
because I've gone down that road, and then the other part is being a business owner. I don't want you to ask me for anything for free.
Right.
So
Right.
therefore, just whatever it is, tell me what the price is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pay for it, and then we're gonna move on. I'll be happy paying for whatever, you know.
Yeah,
So
let me give you something, man. I don't care if I give you a T-shirt, man. Let me give you something. You know, something. Some people are there. No, no, don't worry about it. I got it. I got you. And I've been blessed enough to come across people who, when they like, you know, when they literally say, "Kelly, I got you," it's they, Kelly, I got you. But I'm also the type of person that I need to be able to say the same.
mm,
And eventually, when I get to the place to where I can say, because it's not that I can't say it right now. It's more so like I'm thinking about it in a monetary space. You know, and I have value in other ways, and
hmm
so of course I can always give my value that way. But you know, I know there are just some people in my life, my coaches and mentors, who have just, you know, some of the things that I know they've charged people for me, it's just a phone call away. And I don't
yeah,
take that for granted because there's something in me that they see that is they're willing to take that leap. And so I totally understand what you're saying with just, you know, ultimately I feel like the integrity of that is to be able to give to each other. When of course when it's right. Yeah. But yeah, that's whew, oh man. So you got put out. So what did you do when you got put out? And where'd you go?
my dad asked me. He asked me what time you coming home from prom, son. I said, Dad, I don't know, probably like 2. He was like, be home at 12, and I was like, Dad, that's funny because I'm coming home at 2. He said, son, just be home at 12. Long story short, couldn't find no parties that night. All the parties were shut down. I was the friend that had the car.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up coming home probably like right around that 12:15 mark.
Mm-hmm.
I'm creaking in the house. We got the old wood
Oh
floors.
yeah, the snitch floors.
Man, I just get in bed. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just about to lay down. Then I hear the springs on my dad's bed. And I'm like, mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
He come in the room. He was like, what time did I tell you to come home? And I was like, you told me 12. He said, what time is it now? And I was like 12:15.
Mm-hmm.
He said, get out. I was like, all right, cool. Well, let me get my phone. Let me get my keys. I mean, I'll move around. It's cool. He said,
That's mine.
leave the keys here.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh no. So got kicked out for that, and that was a tough one too. I learned a lot about time that day.
Yo, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that. Yeah, I learned a lot about time that day. So are you punctual now?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I like it. And that's one area I'm learning to grow in my marriage
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes, and I was thinking about this earlier today. One thing about being in a relationship is that you understand that the relationships teach you so much about leadership
Mm-hmm.
because I can be ready to go,
Mm-hmm.
but if my wife isn't ready to go, then we're not ready to go.
Right.
So now it's like, okay, so now I have to learn the right way to talk to her to make sure that we're ready to go when it's time to go. Because
Yeah.
I like being on time. Kelly, I don't like being late.
I'm learning this relationship stuff on another level right now. And one thing that you literally just said is how to talk. You had to learn how to talk. And I'm in that space right now, um, of learning how to talk to my partner because I am a very, I feel probably direct person. And my tone and what I might think is, I'm a very sarcastic person. And it doesn't work in a relationship.
It does
It
it.
doesn't work. It works in my friendships because these are people who have known me forever and ever, amen. So they're not, they're actually going to add to it, because that's I mean, clearly, I guess birds of a feather flock together, but
Hmm.
that is not conducive to relationships. It just doesn't work. And so I'm learning this because I'm also transitioning to becoming a coach. And so when I find myself asking questions, what I might think is, one, I'm a podcaster, I ask questions. Two, I'm a very inquisitive person, I ask questions. But sometimes questions can be offensive, not offensive, but I guess it can just, questions can sometimes throw people off because they may feel like you're digging for something. And I personally feel like, hey, I'm literally just asking a question. It goes a whole nother way. And so I'm working on this communication thing because what I can't do is be out here and like be a speaker and doing podcasts and stuff like that and not know how to speak in my home. Like knowing how to
Yeah.
communicate in my home. So when you write your book,
Yeah.
write a couple of chapters to help us out, to help the, help the congregation. I'm in the front row.
I'm still I'm at the first day of school today. I'm in the first day of class because we've been married for 2 years,
Yeah, I was
and
getting ready to ask
communication
you guys been married.
is still
A thing.
we still learning over here. That's all
Yeah,
I got to say.
yeah, yeah. I think that
We
it's, I don't know if
learning.
it's something that ever goes away. I know my parents have been married for, I don't know, well, I think it's over like 45 years or something like that.
Jeez.
If not married, they've been together 40 something years. The difference is they've been married and then they were dating 6 years on top of that. So I just can't remember
Mm.
the number though. But I know it's a long dang time. It's 40 something. Okay. And what I've learned just from their marriage is communication. It's a thing. It's a thing. And it's, I don't know if it's something that is ever really going to go away because two individuals are always shifting. They're always evolving. They're
It's
always
true.
changing. You know. So right when you think that you've gotten that person's communication style, and you're like, yes, now that person involves, and you're like, wait,
Mm. And
I
and
that
and and the the part that also makes it even more challenging is on the front end of that, because I can't speak to the back end. I can speak to the front
right,
end.
right,
But before you really can learn how to effectively communicate,
mm-hmm,
we have to know how we want to be communicated with.
mm,
And we can't understand that if we haven't taken the time to unpack some baggage and
mm-hmm,
some stuff
mm-hmm,
that we bring into one situation, one house from our previous lives.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Because there's stuff in our marriage is being uncovered
mm-hmm,
that neither one of us knew.
mm-hmm,
It's just some stuff.
mm-hmm.
And then it starts to get more and more uncovered the more we talk and learn. And I think a great parallel, just like what you were saying, is with coaching and speaking,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day you're bringing people into your ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
and then you don't know necessarily what motivates them.
Right,
You'll think you have an idea of, oh, this person wants to get some money. But
right,
then you start talking to them and they're like, no, I'm just trying to get clarity. I'm just trying to,
mm-hmm,
I'm just trying to heal. I just want, it's like, wait, what?
right,
I thought you came to me because you want to get the bag,
right,
but you trying to come to me because you want to learn how to create effective habits?
mm-hmm,
What?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And you got to figure out how to talk to them from there.
right.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to embarking on that journey. And it's crazy you say that one of the most effective things that you need to learn about communication is how you want to be communicated with, which requires you to dig up your own stuff. I'm
Hmm.
working with Mobile Mike right now on, becoming a coach. He's a coach and Kat is a coach. And so they're coaching me. And I have daily assignments. And one of the first assignments that I had with him was, okay, you need to figure out some things, or not figure out, but you need to Expose. Something
Huh.
is about yourself, which I don't have a problem doing because my stories are my stories, and I've always been taught that a lot of the things, majority of things, almost all of the things that happen in your life have nothing to do with you. They're
Mm-hmm.
about the next person to come. So,
Mm-hmm.
in order for you to help someone else, you have to dig deep within your own stuff. And so I just found it funny that you said that because that literally was my homework assignment yesterday. Was okay. Tell me a time when you experienced a feeling of being powerless and then overcoming that. What did that feel like? What did that look like? And so just learning this communication thing, and then especially in a marriage or a relationship where it's like I got to turn Coach K off when I come home
Oh yeah. Yeah,
because
that's true.
yeah, I'm always in a coaching mode where I'm like, okay, well, I guess for me, my job as a coach is for you to admit to me what I already know and what I already see, and that's my interpretation of it for right now as a new coach. And but in order to do that, I ask you questions. So why are you afraid of this? Okay, what does that feel like? What does that look like? And then so
Mm.
when I take that home, it just don't be working out. Don't work out that way. Hey, it's not. And then you get because they know, you're a coach, you're like, hey, I'm not one of your clients. And I never want to make my partner feel like they're my client. You know what I mean? They're
Mm-hmm.
not. They're not. That they're not here to get coached, you know. But that's what I do all day. So, sometimes it's hard to separate it. I'm learning, man. I'm I'm
That's
learning, but
true.
boy, am I learning the hard way. But I don't, it's comforting to know that someone who's been married for 2 years, and then knowing my parents who've been married for umpteen years, that this is something that is a consistent requires a consistent amount of effort and a consistent amount of understanding and compromise and compassion. Um, you know, whew, I'm
Yeah.
I'm learning. I pray to the Lord about it. I talk to Him about it every day, because I really want to get it right. I really want to get it right, but I'm also the person who says perfection doesn't exist. So, I don't look for I don't look to get it perfect, I just want it to make sense sometimes. It don't even have to make sense all the time. I just need to make sense sometimes.
I got you on that.
Majority more often than not, preferably. So,
Mm.
all right, so we're married 2 years. Um what's family life looking like, man? So you're because you're someone who travels, right? For your
Hmm.
job. I mean, not for your job, but for your career and what you do and for your living. So, are we planning for like a little Johnny Jones speaks?
Yeah, so the original plan was we were gonna start trying around this time after we've been married for 2 years. We're like, okay, but now we're pushing that date back a little bit, just
Mm-hmm.
pushing that date back a little bit. Just wanting to get some other things in place first. Just wanting to get some more structure in place and
Absolutely.
continue to tighten up what we have.
Right. 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 That's an awesome plan. I think that's pretty solid. You have a lot of people who try to do it the other way around, and boy, can that be messy. So.
Mm. Yeah, that can be ugly for sure.
Yeah, talk about an ugly truth. That's preferably one that I probably won't talk about. Like I don't, you can't come on the ugly truth podcast with that. We don't. We're good. We we're good. We don't want to know. Um. All right, cool, man. So your desire to write a book, that's part of the brand of expanding the brand or anything like that. Do you have any desire to like open up like a mentorship or anything like that?
Well, I actually do have a
Okay.
mentorship. So so the desire to write a book. I've written a book. I,
Oh,
I wrote
okay.
I wrote one book. Um,
I
and
didn't
my
know.
dad was my first coach.
Okay.
I paid him $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
He helped me write the book, launch the book, help the book become a bestseller, and then the mentorship has rolled out really within these past not within this year because we're in 2022, but
2021.
I have some clients. I have CEO Breezy is one of my clients. Helped her get
Oh,
her podcast up. Javante is another one of my clients. His podcast is coming really soon. Coach Tamika, one of my clients. So I've worked with them on their podcast, and
that's
now we're
dope.
thank you. But now we're rolling it out to where I'm really wanting to really scale this thing out.
Yeah.
So that's why, I started doing the webinars, and that's why I'm wanting to really take this podcasting message to another level. Like
You're following the blueprint,
really,
bro.
yeah. I mean,
Following, I don't think you're following it. I think you're actually
I
creating it.
hmm?
I don't want to say you're following just the blueprint. I think you're creating it too.
I can appreciate you saying that. Well, because the challenge started. The challenge started before Dave rolled out his podcast
Right,
course,
right,
before he rolled out his podcast program.
right.
On a Thursday Q&A call,
Mm-hmm.
him and Donnie were on the call, and Dave asked me, "Can I teach people?" He said, "You probably should just teach people how to start their podcast."
I remember that.
And then
Mm-hmm.
from that day, I was like, okay.
Right.
And then I ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got partnered up with Words Taylor, who's my coach.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I'm going through his program now, that's why I'm doing the webinars,
Right.
because
Right.
now it's time to scale it.
Right.
So shout out to David Shan, shout out to Donnie, and shout out to Words Taylor, because between the culmination of what all three of them said,
Mm-hmm.
between Dave and Donnie talking about, just help people with the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and then Words telling me, well, you should do a podcast talking about podcasting. I don't know many other people that look like me in the space that have a podcast talking about podcasting.
Right.
And that's why I've even niched a little bit further down,
Mm-hmm.
and why I do podcast how-tos. And now every day on YouTube, I do a YouTube short talking about the latest podcast news.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is doing that right now.
Nobody is. I can tell you that right now. Nobody is.
Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. I all three of those pillars, man, they're amazing in what they do. But when you speak about getting to like the nitty gritty and the deep down and the deep dive of podcasting, there is nobody else doing that. And we're hearing, hey, start a podcast, start a podcast, start a podcast. You hear that, but you're like, do you really know, number one, what all that entails? And then two, why? You should.
Mm.
If, it's something that you so choose and desire to do. So to be able to have somebody to guide you, because I'm not going to say that Dave didn't guide me through the podcast challenge, because I went through the podcast challenge. You get a list and, yeah, go get this, and this. Now, my man has a lovely podcasting mentorship, but the way my bank account is set up, I got a checking and a savings. I wasn't going to be able to make that that commitment. And so I did these things, but then it's just kind of like, okay, now what now? You know what I mean? And so being able to have a place where you can go, which will be your YouTube channel, a place where you could go to get those step by steps, that builds a level of comfort and a level of confidence that, hey, okay, I can do this. It's funny you say Javante's he's one of your clients. I'm supposed to be doing his first episode, and I haven't heard
Yeah, that's good.
from him yet. But I mean, I heard from him, but I haven't heard from him. But it's cool because I'm gonna get him together. So.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty dope that you've began to build your platform. And I mean, I would just encourage you, as you're continuing to do your interviews,
Mm-hmm.
I would just encourage you, just like I tell my clients, and feel free to accept or reject this, but I think this is a great opportunity for you to shine in the midst of interviewing people. Because and I'm not saying this directly at you, I'm just talking because we're having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what I've told Javante this and everybody else in the group. I said, I think one thing about podcasting that can potentially hinder people
Mm-hmm.
if they're wanting to establish their authority, which I know you do because you're getting in the coaching space and the speaking space.
Mm-hmm.
So it just makes sense. But one thing that can hinder people is by doing just by leaning on a guest interview
Mm-hmm.
versus
Mm-hmm.
hopping on solo and just giving the game.
So,
Because now,
oh no, go
because
ahead.
now when because I'll say this and then I'll kick it back to you. But because now when we see interviews everywhere with some because of course we see the biggest name people at the highest levels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we see the Charlemagnes and the DJ Envies and the Angela Yees doing interviews, but all of them had their platforms before they got to where they're at. And
Mm-hmm.
then now they're doing the interviews and then now it's just skyrocketing.
Mm-hmm.
But the individuals who are really starting to now pull the cover back and just show who they
Mm-hmm.
are having a great opportunity to introduce themselves to the world at a very, very high level.
I have questions. See now this is my type of conversation right here. I love this. So I have shot one solo episode,
Mm-hmm.
and bro, I was nervous, and I'm typically not nervous, right? I mean, I'm typically like someone who can just go, and whatever comes to mind, that's what's gonna happen. And my message was about a card game and how I compare the game of spades to life, and how you can't control what the dealer gives to you, but you can control how you play the game. You can control how you organize your cards and how you play
Mm-hmm.
this game, and how if you sit at the spades table and you start looking around, you've got your card and you start looking around, your partner can only say these couple of words: play to win. And you gotta look at your hand and say, okay, play to win. So now, whatever cards are dealt to you in life, you have to find a way to play to win. And so I did a solo episode and I tried to kick out like 30 minutes, which I believe I did. I believe I did. So I am not going to reject what you said. I appreciate what you said because I understand the logic behind it. Um, and with that, I'm going to do that more often. I release an episode once a week. And so what I will do is focus at least one of those episodes needs to be a solo episode. And it's awesome. And the crazy thing is the reason why I even had to do a solo episode is because I didn't have nobody to interview and I didn't have enough time to try to find someone to interview. And I
Exactly.
know my engineer was like, Kel, time's ticking. I don't have nothing. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
nothing. What's up? And I'm like, all right, well, maybe I'll record myself. He said, there's no maybe. You need to record yourself. Get on it, turn the camera on, and it's you, and it's that camera, and it's your microphone, and I need you to talk. And I was like, all right, cool.
Mm.
And then I was like, dang. Because when I do these episodes and things like that, I don't, unless there's a huge story about you or my guest, I get to at least lean on someone else, right, in the interview, because now we can have. I don't have a problem having a conversation. That's not
Uh-huh.
problematic for me. But when you're in front of a camera and you're now trying to and having to figure out how do I drive this topic, and then for me at least minimum 30 minutes when my normal episodes are an hour. I'm like, yo, it was tough. It was tough. But in hearing you say that, I'm learning, and I accept what you're saying, in that if you want to establish an authority, it's all fine, well, and dandy, for people to see the interviews, but people are going to come to your channel for you. And so there needs to be some interviews with just you in your space and in your zone. So I received that. I received it, and I appreciate it.
I have a question for you, Kelly.
But
Why does the episode have to be 30 minutes?
it doesn't have to be 30 minutes. It does not have to be 30 minutes. Like it really just doesn't. I felt like,
Well,
okay, well, normally my episodes are around an hour or so you can at least just try to make half, and it didn't have to be 30 minutes.
Okay, let me ask you a follow-up question.
Okay.
How long would it take you to convey a transformation in an episode?
No, dude.
Or,
10 minutes. It take you 5 minutes.
okay then.
See what's happening here, Jonathan.
Right.
Okay.
I'm trying to help you get some clarity.
I appreciate
And the reason I say that is because if you force it being 30 minutes,
it.
but you know at minute 20 you were tapped out, you had good conversation,
Mm-hmm.
then you just giving people fluff.
Mm-hmm.
And if the people are coming to you
Mm-hmm.
because you're telling them to do it ugly, then do it ugly in all sense of the word, which could look like you doing a solo episode and you shooting for 30 minutes, but you just saying, it's gonna be 15. Y'all, I thought I wanted to go 30 minutes. I gave y'all 15 minutes. And then you just let them know straight up. And I gave you 15 minutes because I wanted to shoot you straight and I didn't want to give you no BS.
Mm-hmm.
So come back next week. We're gonna have 15 more minutes. It might be 5, it might be 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people who are gonna rock with you are gonna be the people that's gonna rock with you
Right.
because they're like, she's real. She's not trying to string me along. She just giving me the game, what I need this week, and we getting after it.
Right. Well, no, I have nothing to say. I mean, you told me about me. I'm not mad about it. I'm not upset about it. I appreciate that. I think that, and you're absolutely right. Tell me about myself. You know, if you want to tell people to do it ugly, how you not doing it ugly yourself? The shade. The shade. I appreciate it though. I appreciate it. Oh man. I be having whole speeches in my house, but nobody's in here but my dogs. My speeches be really good sometimes. I need to just start like recording them or something with my phone. Really good.
Yeah, just record. I mean, when I first started, and I still do it now,
Mm-hmm.
is I don't know if you can see that. It's probably not clear. Don't worry about it. But I write these little sticky notes down. When I get an idea for a topic, I'll write down sticky notes and I write down 3 points. Okay, I want to hit this point, want to hit this point, want to hit this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll wrap a story in between each one. That's how I do my podcast episodes.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I do my speaking engagements.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the length of it stretched out a little bit more in the speaking engagement versus the podcast
Right.
episode. But some of the same stuff I've talked about for free is the same stuff I've went and spoke at a school, got paid 2,000, 6,000, 3,000, whatever. It's just the ability to know what your audience needs,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you don't know what your audience needs, then ask them.
Mm-hmm.
Ask the people who are sharing your podcast, who are commenting on your posts and saying, "I like this, I enjoyed that episode." Ask them, "Well, what problem are you having in your business right now?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when they give you that problem, then you take time and you do premeditated murder on that topic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. What was the show? Viola Davis. How to Get Away with Murder. Podcast edition. It's dope. Dope. I love it, man. Well, so I just got coached on The.Ugly Truth podcast. This is full transparency. Just let y'all know. I'm putting in the work, man. I got some good people around me. That's what it is. I got some good people around me. Y'all need to get y'all some new friends. Get y'all some new friends. I know they made a song that said no new friends. I understand. I really do understand. But understand with no new friends means no new growth. Just letting you know. Okay? Just want to let you know that you continue to stay around the same people, you're going to continue to be the same person. You better pick and choose who you're going to be in your circle and grow. That's all I got. That's all I got. Mr. Jones, I appreciate you coming on The.Ugly Truth Podcast. We are going to do this again. But I think when I do this again, or when we do this again, I want to know the ugly truth of podcasting. I have your ugly truth now, but I want to do and know the ugly truths of podcasting. Is that doable?
We can do it. That's gonna be all day. We can do it though.
That's gonna be all day. I got time. I mean,
That's
well,
gonna be all day. We
that,
can do it.
how many
We
stickies you
can.
got on that?
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm still writing them. I got the
yeah,
book of stickies on that one.
yeah. All right, man. Well, look, I appreciate you. It's been a blast here on the Truth Podcast with Jonathan Jones Speaks. Look, in the description, I will have the link to your course, right? Is it a course?
Well,
Mentorship.
you can, yeah. So we can do the link to. We'll give them the link to the training first. They can check out the training. They can
Okay,
see if they got value from the training,
right.
and then if they enjoy that, then we can talk about them getting into the mentorship. And then I also give you the link to my podcast page, and then people can check out your podcast mentor show and tap in.
Absolutely. So listen, guys, in the link in the description, we're gonna have all that stuff you just said because my memory is short, and I'm not gonna be able to repeat it to you. Just look in the description, okay? You want to get into podcasting? He is the podcast mentor that you need to learn from. I'm just telling you what y'all just saw me get coached, and it's my podcast. It's my podcast. He came and coached me on my podcast. He is your podcast mentor. Other than that, I am Kelli Kelz and I am The Ugly Brand. Don't forget, go get your ugly gear from www.theuglybrand.com. That is www.theuglybrand.com. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of The.Ugly Truth. See you